Hello, my name is Brigitte Gabrielle Simpson.
And my name is Maeve Tanner. We would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging the Lekwungen and Kosapsum, also known as the Songhees and Esquimalt peoples on whose traditional territory we are speaking from today, and the Lekwungen and Wasanich peoples whose historical relationships with the land continue to this day.
As settlers, it is vital that we recognize how our presence on these lands continually perpetrates violence, and how we have a responsibility to resist the status quo and use our privilege to create positive change. We are here today to discuss the calls to justice from the final report of the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and 2SLGBTQQIA+ people. These calls to action are directed at all governments and to the public. We will be looking into Call to Justice number 4.3 for all governments, which calls upon all governments to support programs and services for Indigenous women, girls, and 2SLGBTQQI+ people in the sex industry to promote their safety and security. These programs must be designed and delivered in partnership with people who have lived experience in the sex industry. We call for stable and long-term funding of these programs and services. The colonial roots of violence and exploitation of Indigenous women, girls, and 2SLGBTQQI peoples has led to racist and sexist stereotypes, specifically surrounding those in the sex trade.
Colonial structures and genocidal instruments such as the Indian Act, the residential school system, the Sixties Scoop, and the ongoing Millennial Scoop directly create cycles of poverty and trauma that can lead to a need for survival sex work. The police system as a whole was built to establish control over Indigenous women, and often this was done by casting them as prostitutes to then be criminalized.
Victims of sex trafficking are most often young women, 3/4 of which are under 25, and many of them come out of the child welfare system. Knowing that there are a variety of avenues that might shape an Indigenous woman's involvement in sex work acknowledges agency and combats attitudes of dehumanization.
As the report states, we can change the course of history. Education is important when it comes to destroying the stigma around sex work and Indigenous sex workers.
Part of fighting stigma is understanding and acknowledging that Indigenous women and 2SLGBTQQI+ people who participate in sex work or survival sex work are all worthy of protection and respect.
If you have enough safety to stand up and say something about those with less safety, you must use it.
Get involved with your community organizations and support them however you can. This can be through donations, volunteer work, and sharing information. Locally on Vancouver Island in Victoria, we have Peers, a grassroots agency by and for sex workers. Peer Society provides harm reduction, education, and support services for current and former sex workers. They work in collaboration with Quam Coastal Connections, an Indigenous-led harm reduction and health services outreach team.
We urge you to hold your governments accountable to this call to action in whatever way possible. Governments must provide access to accessible healthcare, counseling, and addiction services for Indigenous women, girls, and 2SLGBTQQIA+ peoples in the sex industry. As the report reminds us, the right to health also includes the right to economic stability because it is directly tied to a healthy life. As well as this, the report reminds governments that Indigenous women, girls, and 2SLGBTQQIA+ people in the sex industry have the right to learn and practice traditional culture, language, and ceremonies.
Because of its deeply violent and colonial history, it is vital that the government mandate a reform of policing institutions and put measures in place that ensure the knowledge and information held by Indigenous peoples about their missing and murdered loved ones is listened to and acted upon. This reform must be based in action, not empty words and apologies.
When calling upon governments to meet this call to action, it is important to make sure Indigenous women-run organizations are the ones being funded through government grants and programs.
The government must implement institutional change in the areas laid out in this video and in the National Inquiry Report. No matter your personal opinion on sex work, access to healthcare, culture, and security are human rights that we are all entitled to. Thank you so much to you, our viewer, to our professor, Dr. Christine Tsai, and to our fellow classmates for making this video possible. Any websites or resources mentioned in this video can be found in the description below. Thank you so much.